He's online.
Look out on WebEx, he's serious.
First time for everything. Look at that, he's gonna try. I don't know.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll bring the Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 special council meeting to order and start with our land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory in Métis Nation of Alberta, District 11. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of many Indigenous peoples, including the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. The City honors the First Peoples of this land and is committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and education. We have a few guests today, so I'll just, for some housekeeping, let you know that the washrooms are located in the main lobby. And if there's an emergency today, we're going to head out these doors, straight up the stairs and out to the muster point. And if that for some reason is blocked, there is a secret door to my right through here. And just follow us. We will get you there. Next item would be adoption of the agenda. If anyone would like to move that. Councillor Blizzard.
Sure, I make a motion that we adopt the agenda of the July 21st, 2026 regular council meeting.
Yes, special council meeting, and I will close that
Special.
motion. Please cast your vote.
Unanimous.
And that is carried. All right, we will move into the public hearing for bylaw C1326, amend the Point O'Pins area structure plan, and bylaw C1726, amend the land use bylaw. I'll call the public hearing to order at 2:01. The process today will be administration will provide opening comments and information. Council will be able to ask questions of administration. Following that, public will be invited to speak, starting with the registered speakers, and then administration will come up to answer any follow-up questions. And then we will close the public hearing and move into business arising. So welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. My name is Terrence Samra, planner with the city's Planning and Development Department. And today I'm here to present a brief summary of bylaw C13-26, an amendment to the Point O'Pins area structure plan, which includes the adoption of the Marigold neighborhood structure plan and an amendment to the land use bylaw to introduce the East Marigold Special District and redistrict lands in Point O'Pins. So I'll start with an outline of the presentation. I'll begin by giving a brief hierarchy overview about the planning documents we use and how those documents fit together. Followed by the applications, we'll discuss the Point O'Pins area structure plan, which includes the Marigold neighborhood structure plan. After, we'll discuss the land use bylaw, which includes introducing a new special district, followed by information about conformance and administration support. And last, we'll talk about the public hearing communication process. So this slide is a brief overview about the planning hierarchy. When it comes to planning, the Municipal Government Act establishes a framework. It sets out a hierarchy of planning documents, what those documents do, and how they should relate to each other. And as you can see, it begins with the Municipal Development Plan, followed by area structure plans and area redevelopment plans, then outline plans and neighborhood structure plans, the land use bylaw, which includes redistricting applications, and at the bottom are development permits and subdivision applications. So the Municipal Development Plan, or MDP, is the highest level planning document that sets high level objectives, long-term vision of the city, and gives direction to land use, transportation, parks planning, economic development, and related matters. An area structure plan, or ASP, is the next level of long-range planning, which focuses on an area within the city. ASPs may encompass multiple neighborhoods. An example is the Point O'Pins area ASP. An ASP sets out high-level policies and identifies general locations of residential, commercial, parks and open spaces, major transportation corridors, and infrastructure and servicing strategies. From ASPs come outline plans and neighborhood structure plans, or NSPs, which focus on a smaller area, usually limited to one neighborhood. An example would be the Marigold neighborhood, which is located within Point of Pins, and that will be discussed later in this presentation. An NSP is more precise than an ASP as it provides details at the block level, such as local road and lane locations, housing types, and parks and open space locations. Next is the land use bylaw. Council regularly sees land use bylaws as redistrictings, text amendments, and refreshes. The land use bylaw and its regulations, they establish rules for subdivision and development permitting. After a land is districted, it can be subdivided into smaller parcels. And once the land is subdivided, development permits are issued for those buildings and how those buildings will be used. The MDP, ASP, NSP, outline plan, or land use bylaw, or amendments to those documents are approved by council. So now we'll start with the first application, which is bylaw C13-26, an amendment to the Point of Pins ASP, which includes the adoption of the Marigold NSP. So to begin, in January of 2025, council adopted the Point of Pins ASP, and that area is highlighted in blue. The ASP covers approximately 150 hectares of land located south of West Park, west of Highway 21, and east of the North Saskatchewan River. The ASP area includes agricultural lands, a portion of Point of Pins Creek and surrounding riparian areas, formal gravel extraction site, an established country residential, which is Point of Pins Estates, and a tree stand in the northeast quarter. In October of 2025, administration received an application to amend the Point of Pins ASP, which would include the adoption of the Marigold NSP. The Marigold NSP focuses on a smaller area of the ASP, which is outlined in black, and this covers approximately 82 hectares. So the ASP envisions Point of Pins as a predominantly residential neighborhood that will encompass approximately 3,900 residents and 1,600 dwelling units through a mix of different housing types. The community is connected by a network of collector roads with roundabouts to promote safe and efficient traffic movement. Higher density residential and mixed use development are focused along these collector roads, with commercial uses proposed along Highway 21 and a neighborhood node located at the center of the community. Key features of the plan include incorporating an existing wetland into a stormwater management facility and preserving an existing tree stand through municipal reserve dedication. Parks and open spaces, including a future school site, are distributed throughout the neighborhood and connected by active transportation network. A landscape municipal reserve buffer will also separate the new community from Point of Pins Estates. The amendment to the ASP also includes several technical updates to the road network, sanitary servicing, update to the land use layout, and supporting maps and policies. So the NSP builds on the ASP by providing a more detailed layout of how the community will develop. As the NSP is considered a chapter of an ASP, therefore, adopting an NSP requires an amendment to the ASP. The NSP follows a similar land use pattern as the ASP, with Marigold envisioned as predominantly residential neighborhood. Building on the ASP, the street network for the NSP is based on a modified grid layout that creates well-connected, walkable neighborhood with short block lengths. 2 enhanced local roads are also included which accommodate a multi-purpose trail to improve connectivity throughout the community. Parks and open spaces are distributed throughout the neighborhood, providing opportunities for both active and passive recreation, while ensuring residents have convenient access to green spaces. So now we'll move into the land use bylaw amendment, bylaw C17-26, which will introduce the EM, East Marigold Special District, and redistrict lands in Marigold. So to begin, Arcadis, on behalf of Marigold Land Partnership, applied to amend the land use bylaw to introduce a new special district and redistrict lands in Marigold. The new special district is called the East Marigold Special District. The special district includes different housing forms, which are conventional single-detached, semi-detached, townhouses, apartments, and street-oriented townhouses. Approximately 9 hectares of land is to be rezoned to the East Marigold Special District, and that is seen in yellow. Furthermore, lands will be redistricted to C2 for highway commercial development, as seen in pink, PR, Parks and Recreation District for a tree stand and neighborhood park, which is seen in purple, and to Public Utility, the PU District, seen in blue, and that's to accommodate that stormwater management facility. Within the special district is a regulatory map, which shows the locations of different housing type or different types of housing development. As mentioned on the previous slide, the EM district, which is outlined in black on the screen, includes conventional single detached, semi-detached townhouses and townhouses. Street-oriented townhouses, which are along the collector road and multifamily site, may also be developed through a combination of townhouses or apartments. Next is a slide that provides information about the site widths and depths of different housing types and the comparable district. As you can see on the table, generally the housing site widths and depths are comparable to different housing types within the RC, Comprehensive Plan Residential District, the NRS, Northeast Roseburn Residential Special District, and the SLDR, South Point Low Density Residential District. Based on the proposed amendments and alignment with the MDP, administration supports the applications. The proposed ASP and NSP were prepared in accordance with the city's terms of reference for area structure plans and neighborhood structure plans. And together, the ASP, NSP, and land use bylaw amendments support a complete, connected, and walkable neighborhood by providing a mix of housing, parks and open spaces, and higher density development along major transportation routes. Following first reading, the public hearing was advertised in the Fort Record for 2 consecutive weeks. 130 notices were delivered to property owners within 100 meters of the ASP area. Notice of the proposed bylaw was posted on the city's website and social media accounts, and no responses were received. The recommended motion is that council give second and third reading to bylaw C13-26 and C17-26 as described in the council report. And that concludes my presentation, and administration is here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just giving it a second to see if anyone is going to ask questions to start. All right, Councillor Blizzard, go ahead.
Sure. I was going to ask somebody, it doesn't matter who answers this, but under the allowed permitted uses, one of the things said public facility. What is that? Is that just like a public housing, low income housing? What does that mean?
Through the Mayor to Council Blizzard, I can pull up the exact definition from the land use bylaw. I believe public facility is there'll be facilities used by the city. So, for example, it could be I believe like a lift station or anything.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and another one here. I've got a few little questions, but if nobody else has any. And again, one of the documents it mentions enhanced local roads. So what's enhanced? Because it looked to me like they were smaller roads, really. Not.
Through the Mayor Council Blizzard. So an enhanced local road it's similar to a local road, except the thing is, it is a little more wider, but it does also incorporate a multi-purpose trail compared to, for example, I'll use Pineview example, where there's like local roads where you might have a walkway on one side. The enhanced local road, it does provide a little more, I would say, pedestrian oriented experience, right? For example, having walkways on both sides or a multi-purpose on both sides. You may have housing development that will front. There'll be, what's the word? Sorry, I can't think of the word, but it'll be fronting instead of having a driveway to the front, it'll be like the house will be closer to the street.
Okay,
so
and not necessarily a collector road or.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Councillor Wesley is joining us online, and he is up next.
Awesome. Just curious, when I read this package, Taryn, my concern was it looked like density for this particular area is going to be higher with the revised ASP and with the neighborhood structure plan. Am I correct in that assessment?
Through the Mayor Council Wesley, I have to double check, but I believe the overall density remains close to 35.
I read that it was a minimum of 35 in both, but minimum of 35 means, 35 and greater, which is a lot of numbers. For instance, 35 being, lower than, let's say, 55 or something like that. Okay, so do we have any info about what we expect the density of this area to be?
Through the Mayor Council Wesley, yes, it does say a minimum of 35, but as the way the stats come out right now, that number would be 35. If the number were, or if more density would be included, then an amendment would be required, and that would come in front of council, and we would show, or we would present that this is the new density that's going to be developed. So as of right now, the way it is to be developed would be at 35, or the overall density would be at 35, but any increase or difference from that would require amendments, and that would be presented to you.
Okay, and I just have maybe another question, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this because it's more of a money question. But in the package, it noted that municipal tax rates could be approximately 2.8% higher over the 30-year forecast period. And I'm just wondering, is there any particular period in that 30 years that most of that tax increase would hit, or is it evenly distributed over the whole 30 years?
Through the mayor to Councilor Wesley, I'd probably defer to the applicant to be able to answer that one as they have their consultant.
Okay.
here.
Okay, awesome. Maybe I'll just hang out for a bit, but thank you very much, Terren.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen, you're next.
Yeah, if you've referred to the NSP map, it's on the page before bylaw 1726, there's no differentiation between low density and low medium density residential, and I was wondering if there is.
Through the mayor to Councilor Nguyen, so the difference between low density and low medium density, well, the first thing I'll mention is the maximum density range. So for example, low density can have a maximum of 35, while low medium could be, I believe, 45 to 70, actually. You know what?
Yeah,
Let me get that number for you, 35 to 45, I think.
I think you're close. Am I just looking at it, or maybe I'm colorblind, but it seems like the shading of both low and low medium is the exact same on the map that you have in your presentation. So I was wondering if there is a more detailed map that was maybe generated that we can't see, or here we go, yeah.
Through the mayor councilor, I saw this map. It's sorry, my page number is incorrect here, but it is from the NSP. So this one does show the dashes for the low medium, just to provide a little more to define them a little more. But you typically that low medium density will be your street oriented type of development. So you would typically see townhouses there. I know. It was mentioned earlier about that local enhanced road. So most of this low medium density is along the collector roads, but the ones in the middle of the plan area that actually follows our local enhanced road development.
Excellent. Okay, so phase 3 and then below phase 1, south of phase 1 are both low density.
Yes, just the plain yellow without the dash is
Exactly.
low
Okay,
density.
thank you.
Councillor Rendawa.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Samra. Would you be able to throw up the maps with the parks? I had a question on that. Oh, look at that. You have all the maps. That's great. I had a question. Maybe you could kind of just talk about the philosophy on having a lot of smaller parks throughout this area rather than what I'd term as like mega parks. Like when I look into our community, a lot of the older neighborhoods, we have like larger singular parks. And here we're having a lot of smaller ones. So if you could expand on the philosophy and then what would be the amenities in those parks and whether the city would be building those, the developer, so forth.
Yeah, definitely. So through the mayor to Councilor Riddell, I'll try to answer all your questions, but if I miss one, please follow up with me.
In there, it's fine.
So the first one you mentioned was just the multitude of the parks. In the end, it comes to accessibility, right? You want to create a neighborhood that is accessible to everyone by having multiple smaller parks. They're all within, say, a 5 to a 5-minute walk, right? So being able to have that type of access is the reason why you would have those types of parks. As to, I believe your second question was the type of development you would see in parks. So we do have a policy within the neighborhood structure plan that talks about passive and active recreation infrastructure. So it could range from just being open space, which would be more of your passive, versus maybe that active where you might see maybe some type of tot lot, playground, things like that. So how that developed, it would be a conversation between the developer and administration of how that looks like, but that's something that is captured in the NSP.
Okay. And is there a consideration to the cost of servicing multiple smaller parks versus one larger park? Like as we look at growing as a municipality and the parks and recreation staff, like do we have those conversations internally?
You want?
Through Mayor Macon, Councillor Randhawa, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that's coming up for the city is to have a big discussion about how we allocate parks, how our open space network looks, and we're going to be undertaking a master plan exercise starting this fall, I believe. And so I think those are really good conversations to have. We just haven't gotten to them yet. And at this point in time, the direction in our municipal development plan supports the network that you see presented today, but that could change pending conversations about what the future of the city looks like.
Okay, awesome. And last park question. So of our 10%-ish MR, how much is allocated into that tree stand? And what would be the functionality of the tree stand? Like, is that trails through there, or is it just trees in an area?
Through the mayor, Councilor Dow, I can pull up the stats for you here to let you know what that percentage is.
You got all the numbers today. This is great.
I try to be prepared. I believe that, yeah, so through the mayor to Councilor Dow, the tree stand takes up approximately 3.5% of your total MR dedication. As to the type of development that can occur in there, so that is something that administration is in discussions with the applicant. As I kind of mentioned, all municipal reserves spaces that are dedicated could require some sort of active or passive recreation infrastructure. So that's something we'll discuss further. It could be a trail, it could be something further. That's something that has to be discussed.
And when you say 3.5%, that's about a third of our total MR, right? Like it's about 30-ish percent.
Through the mayor, Councilor Dodd, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
You're required to provide 10%. So yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. I'll circle back.
Sounds good. Councillor Blizzard on round two.
I have a couple questions, but I'll stick to this one first with that map. I kind of agree. I think I've mentioned it before with these small parks, and you know, when you have staff going with a lawnmower from one to the other, that makes more work and time involved in that, especially that top left corner, which is the tiniest little triangle that I just see as maybe becoming a little field of weeds. We definitely need to look at that because, you know, I look, is the school area big enough for a sports field, ball diamond, soccer pitch? Because where else would we put it? And maybe in our master plan, we'll look at that, you know, how much is enough to make sure that the future has all those. I guess I don't really have a question, more of a concern there with the smaller parks. The other question I had was in the Marigold policy, it mentioned at one point having a permeable surface for pathways. It was in 4.5.6.4. Was that for, I don't know if I missed it, was that for a specific area only? Because normally our pathways are all paved and I don't think asphalt is permeable.
Through the mayor, Council Blizzard. So it is a where possible. So we will look at that when it comes to the detailed design phase, and if we can come up with some permeable surface to help, say, with water mitigation or whatever that might be, that's something that's discussed. At that
Oh, okay.
stage, yeah.
So it might just be an option, not because it said do it where you can. I mean, you can do it everywhere, but that doesn't make it nice for someone in a scooter, not the little scooters, a big wheelchair scooter or something. So, okay. And I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Councillor Wesley.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Macon. Taran, I'm just going back to your comment on the walkability of the neighborhood. When I look at for the city as a whole, the property tax mix is about 41% residential in value to about 59% non-residential. But in this community, I think it's about 49 to 51. Is there going to be sufficient commercial space here to actually make it a genuinely walkable community, or will people still have to drive in order to purchase things or to buy those convenience retail items that we so much love?
Through the mayor, Councillor Wesley. So there's a couple areas of commercial. One is the highway where you would typically see most of your commercial development. But we also do have what was in the center or close to the center of the plan, which is our neighborhood node. So within our node is where you would see your residential mixed use development. So you could see commercial at grade level and then residential above. So there you would typically see those smaller types of shops like a coffee shop or something like that, where people could go to get that type of service required.
Yeah, but when we think about 3,900 potential residents here, would you say that the commercial allocation for this particular neighborhood is, I guess, consistent with the rest of Fort Saskatchewan?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wesley. So I'll use West Park as the example. So in West Park, most of our commercial is along the highway with two pockets. You would have the West Park 7-Eleven, and of course we have that medium density site along West Park Drive, which is planned for a service, neighborhood service. Or a neighborhood service. So typically, I would say it could be consistent with that, just how the way it's kind of developed, where you have your commercial along the highway, and then within the neighborhood, you have a pocket of commercial development. So I would say it would be consistent with that one.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Taran.
Councillor Andawa?
Sorry, could I get clarification? I thought this was about a 93% residential to 7% non-res development. Is that correct, or is it 50-50?
Through the mayor, it's definitely not 50-50. We can look for the exact ratio here, but yeah, it is a primarily residential neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question, just kind of along the terms of servicing for the municipality. I remember when some of us went on a nice little ride along for snow removal. We're told cul-de-sacs are a lot of work, and so are curving roads. So when I see the road plan map, another beautiful map, I see a lot of cul-de-sacs and semi-curving roads. So did we have those discussions internally?
Through the mayor to Councillor Dower, yes, we did. I can say that this plan right here wasn't actually technically the original plan. It did actually consist of more cul-de-sacs. We did go talk with the applicant, talk internally, and we did actually come up with a better design to reduce the number of cul-de-sacs within this neighborhood.
Okay, so we're content that that's not too much of a servicing burden going forward?
Through the mayor to Councillor Dower, correct, yes.
Okay. And another question just regarding site coverage. So I think a lot of our other neighborhoods around about a 40% site coverage. This is 60 or 70. Could you kind of just expand on that and the impacts on that and the rationale for why?
Through the mayor, Councillor Dower, yes. So site coverage, I guess, comes down to typically when you have a smaller lot, but you want to try to still provide a similar dwelling size, you'll increase your site coverage just because your building area has decreased, but you want to provide, I guess, more like a similar living space. So that's why you provide a higher coverage. Typically that'll happen with lots getting narrow. When lots are narrow.
I would just add to that in addition to lot sizes sort of decreasing over the last couple decades, we've also got more attached product than we've had in the past. And so with the elimination of a side yard for the attached product, you will also see that percentage come up.
Okay, so in like practical terms, we'll see a significant less green space throughout this development. Is that the way to look at it? Because more of the lots are going to be developed with smaller yards and so forth. Like, how do I kind of take that in practical terms if I want to imagine it?
Through the mayor, Councillor Dow, I don't know if I would say it the way that you'll see less. You said green space, correct?
Yeah, or greenery or grass.
Or grass, yeah. Through the mayor to Councillor, I think it comes down to choice, right? As some people might not want that green space because they don't like cutting grass. Some they can choose to build to the maximum size that they're permitted. But if someone chooses they want to enjoy a backyard or things like that, or maybe they don't want to have a detached garage, then they can increase their green space. So it in the end, it comes down to choice, how the homeowner would want to proceed.
And this would be the highest site coverage for us in the city?
Through the mayor to councilor now, it would match what Northeast Roseburn has done.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Nguyen.
Thanks for reminding me of our snow ride-alongs, and that prompted a question in my mind on engineering standards. And so the question would be, have there been any adaptations or improvements made to our engineering standards that you're aware of? This might be an engineering question, subsequent to what we've learned in other neighborhoods. And I do reflect on a comment that I actually made to our snow team on ice buildup in laneways, back alley laneways, and how potentially the elevation could have been lowered to accommodate some problems that have been recurring or have recurred over the years. Maybe you can make just a couple of comments on that if you would.
Yeah, through Mayor Macon to Councillor Noyen, we don't have any approved engineering drawings at this point, but to your point, I think a lot has been learned from the places where those mistakes have been made, and so that's certainly something that's top of mind when Taryn talks about the number of laneways and number of cul-de-sacs being reviewed and changed quite a bit from the initial concept, all the way up to how the grade will be evaluated when engineering drawings are finally stamped. So this is something that, yeah, we've learned a lot from the things that have gone wrong, and we'll really strive to make sure they don't happen again.
Appreciate that response a little bit further than we are here today. Now, I was going to ask you another kind of open-ended question. Since we're reviewing our land use bylaw project, could you make a couple comments, high-level comments, on how this both conforms and supports a vision that we have embedded in our new land use bylaw? Because I do see quite a few elements in here that are very recognizable. So I think we're doing a great job here.
Through the Mayor, Council Noyen. So with the new land use bylaw, we're trying to create a community, or trying to create regulations that are for like the community's needs. I know nothing is developed here yet, but while using our policies from the MDP when thinking about the new land use bylaws, you want to create a welcoming, walkable, complete community, right? Having areas of active transportation, right? Having your higher density along your major corridors, having your low density areas act like low density areas, right? So you don't have much traffic going through them. Having your neighborhood node, or an area where place where people can gather in, like as the center of your neighborhood. So that's it. Kind of this NSP, the design kind of follows those policies and objectives, and which would transform to the land use bylaw when trying to bring that vision forward through the development process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing anybody weighing in right now. You guys can take your seats in the gallery. We'll move on to our public guests. We'll start with we have a couple registered to speak today. The first one on the list is our group from Arcadis, apologize if I am saying that wrong. I have Lillette Holder, Ashley Nachu, and Daryl Howery. And I have that Lillette is doing a presentation, and that these other gentlemen are here to answer questions after that. Is that fair? Awesome. And you will have 5 minutes once you're all set up there. And I apologize, you need to state your name and whether you're for or opposed.
Hello, members of council. My name is Lillette Holder, and I'm an urban planner with Arcadis. We are presenting bylaws C1326 and C1726 today in favor of the bylaws. So I'll start the presentation start off with some introduction project background. Throughout the presentation, I will be using acronyms, ASP to denote area structure plans, NSP to denote neighborhood structure plans, and EM to denote the East Marigal Special District. So the plan area is located in the south of Fort Saskatchewan and immediately south of the West Park neighborhood. Within the east portion of the ASP is the proposed Marigal NSP that's shown in green on the map. It provides more details to guide the development of the area. In October 2025, Arcadis applied to amend the Point au Pin ASP and shortly after submitted the Marigal NSP and the Land Use Bylaw Amendment applications. The city had requested that the EM Special District be created to align with the proposed regulations of the new Land Use Bylaw, which will go to Council this August. Today, I will provide you with a high-level overview of each application and will be happy to answer questions afterwards. What you see here is the proposed ASP land use concept. The intent of the plan remains unchanged. It is similar to the current version, save for a few changes. These main changes include the removal of the Highway 21 road widening dedication, the reconfiguration of land uses along the highway, the replacement of the portion of the east-west collector roadway with a local roadway, the addition of a larger mixed-use residential site to the node, and the reconfiguration of pocket parks throughout the neighborhood. The proposed NSP looks at the more detailed block level configuration, and the main features include, one moment, 3 gateway entrances to the neighborhood from the north and east, the neighborhood node shown as pink dash circle, which acts as a gathering area for the residents, the low density of residential uses shown in yellow that consist of single family and semi-detached homes, the low medium density of residential that's shown in red hatches consists of rear access townhomes. And then the medium and medium high density of residential sites that are shown in orange and brown. Both of those land uses consist of townhomes, stacked townhomes, and apartments. Next, we have residential mixed-use site that's shown in pink. It's adjacent to the node and consists of mix of residential, commercial, and office uses. And lastly, we have commercial along Highway 21, shown in red. For parks and open spaces, the plan includes the tree stand, the school site, the stormwater pond, and the many pocket parks scattered throughout. These spaces are proposed to be interconnected by multi-use trails, providing significant connections within the neighborhood, as well as to adjacent areas. Along Highway 21, the north axis is a proposed right-in, right-out, and the south axis is a proposed all-directional signalized intersection. Within the plan, the enhanced local roads that are shown in pink incorporate multi-use trails. Lastly, roundabouts are featured at all collector-to-collector intersections. Here I wanted to provide a very high-level servicing overview and focus on the sanitary lift station, shown in the orange circle close to Highway 21. It will be used to service Sanitary Basin 2 for the plan area. Lastly, for the NSP, the general sequence of phasing is proposed to begin in a northeast corner of the plan area, gradually moving west and south. Now let's go over the land use bylaw amendment highlights with the first stage of development proposed to be redistricted to the EM Special District, in addition to other standard zones as shown on this map. Being prescriptive in nature, the Special District assigns building typologies for all residential blocks. And lastly, the public engagement for these applications was broken down into 2 phases. Both phases saw mailouts of a total of 260 notification letters, as well as newspaper advertisements. In phase 1, we held a public open house, which saw a generally positive response. In phase 2, engagement was completed fully online and included in a virtual engagement page. We have summarized the feedback from the public into 3 categories: feedback that the public wasn't supportive, concerned about, and suggestions. Due to 8 seconds remaining in my presentation, I'm happy to go more into this during question period. And we're here with my colleagues to answer any of the questions you have. Thank you so much.
Well done. Thank you very much for your presentation. I will open it up for questions. Councillor Ketcher.
Okay, so as I'm looking at this, really the only question that I have is you have a full traffic, signalized traffic intersection, but you have a right in and out. And I actually voted against the Pineview one because they had too many in and outs. So I guess the question that I have is, why would you not just push that traffic out to Welcher Boulevard if you're going to have another signalized one? It feels like to me there's too many accesses to the highway.
Through the mayor to Councillor Ketcher, a transportation impact assessment was completed for this quarter section and the entire neighborhood, assessing the viability and the traffic flows for the area, and the best way to approach a flow throughout the neighborhood and not to concentrate too much traffic and congestion in one area was to add additional entrances. Now, the original area structure plan that was approved prior to Arcadis starting this work already had those accesses. So there were some discussions prior to us starting on the project that took place. And I'm not sure if my colleague, Ashley Natchev, has anything else to add to this.
Through the mayor to Councillor Ketcher, No, just echoing Lilith's comments. Transportation impact assessment was done. Again, it's to provide traffic flow to the neighborhood and to, I guess, you want to provide in and out and flow with the volume as opposed to creating those bottlenecks. You want to keep the traffic moving, and that's what the additional accesses help provide.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the other question that I have, so we have a signalized intersection on Wilshire Boulevard, and then you're going to put another one. I'm not sure how many, what the distance is away from that, but as the next quarter section develops, then I anticipate there's probably going to be another traffic signalized intersection. Have you had any conversations with the people who own the next quarter section? You and planning with them to see where these are all going to end up? You turned it off.
Through the mayor to Councillor Ketcher. Sorry, it's my first time in these chambers. There were no, to my knowledge, there were no conversations that took place with the landowner to the south, but in our design of the accesses to the neighborhood from Highway 21, we had to take into consideration minimum spacing distances between accesses that were both provincial and municipal in nature, and I would defer to administration to go into a little more detail on that.
Okay. And last one, and I'm just going to come back to this. I know you say you had a traffic impact assessment done, but we have no other residential area that has a right in and right out onto the highway. So how did your traffic assessment actually get that through?
Through the mayor to Councillor Ketcher. The reason the north access, here I'll pull it up on the map here. The reason the north access is a right in, right out access, denoted as Street A, just north of the commercial, is because it was actually not possible to have that as an all-directional intersection because it was too close to the access to the north that exists. So we were constrained with those minimum spacing requirements.
Okay, I'll make my comments during discussion and debate.
Thank you.
Councillor Wesley?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Macon. I just have a question about the tax impact, and I see it here in your financial impact assessment, and you know where the potential tax impact reaches about an increase of 5% around 2033. Do you have any numbers? And maybe they're in there, and my sun-addled brain is missed them, but. What the cumulative tax impact would be to the other residents of Fort Saskatchewan as a result of this development?
Yes, through the mayor to councillor. These are the tax impacts to the residents, existing residents and future residents of the city outside of the proposed development area, because it compares what the fiscal position of the city would be with the development and without the development. And you're right, according to the analysis, it does max out at about a 5% tax increase at the maximum, and then it goes down over time to be about 1.5% tax increase. So over the entire time frame, it works out to be about a 2.8% average tax rate increase that would be affecting all the ratepayers within the city.
Yeah, okay. But do you have a cumulative dollar impact over those 30 years? Because I'm just doing some quick and back of the napkin math in my head. That would suggest that this development over 30 years is going to more than double Fort Saskatchewan residents' property taxes. So I just wondered if you have that number so that we're not depending on my fuzzy brain.
Yes, through the mayor to the councillor. To be clear, the tax impacts represent the change from the base case, which does not include the development, as to the composite scenario, which does include the development. So this is not a compounded tax rate increase year over year. It is a total tax rate difference from the with and without the development scenario. And the dollar amount is on the next page, I believe, just after the tax rate increase. And the average cost to the city over the forecast time frame of about 30 years would be a total of $1.8 million, which is roughly equivalent to that 2.8% tax rate increase.
Okay, awesome. Okay. I appreciate that clarification because just looking at the graph, it looked like it was compounding, which had me like my heart skipping a little bit, but that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Randhawa.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'll piggyback off Councillor Wesley's question because I also was reading those graphs and the financial impact assessment. They weren't jumping off the page to me. So is it 2.8% a year for 30 years or a cumulative 2.8% over the 30 years? And the reason I ask is because I've heard both and I've read both. And then I see a graph that has numbers up to the 5% you said and fluctuating around over those 30 years. So help me piece all those together.
Sure. Through the mayor to the councillor, this is a different kind of tax increase than what you're used to thinking about when you're looking at your annual budget every year, saying this is the percent change that is going to be required, positive or negative, usually an increase in taxes year over year when you're looking at the annual budget for the city. What we're doing is a slightly different kind of analysis where we're comparing what the city's financial picture would be without the proposed development and with the proposed development. So on average, over the entire time frame, taxes would be about 2.8% higher. So it's not a cumulative 2.8% year over year, it just averages out to be about 2.8% higher over that forecast period. So it's like if you were to incur that cost all at once, you would hit that 2.8% mark, which is, just refer back to my numbers to get it right, about a $1.8 million hit. Once you've incurred that, then that's basically you've accomplished neutralizing the impact of the proposed development. You could spread that out over time and how you would manage your budget year to year, or depending upon the rate of the development that's proposed, can compare to the rest of the development in the city, that change may vary over the forecast period. But just to be clear, it's not a cumulative impact. You're not adding that 2.8% year over year over year. It is an aggregate impact that would be, I guess, experienced over the forecast period on average.
Got you. And does your model, not to get too into the details, does that include then, replenishing reserves and so forth for the replacement of a lot of this infrastructure? Like for municipalities, the roads, what's under the roads, that, we have life cycles for that and replacement programs. So does that include being fully funded for those kind of things?
Yes, through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, it does include consideration of all of those costs. The model is intended to be comprehensive in the sense that it's capturing all relevant operating expenditures by function area, as well as capital expenditures, including life cycle costs associated with the replenishment and refurbishment of existing assets. So calculated into that analysis is all of the costs, and then that's compared against the change in the tax base and the tax rates required to balance the city's books on a year-over-year basis. So yes, that those life cycle costs are considered in the model, and that includes the additional infrastructure costs associated with the proposed development, as well as the rest of the capital costs that are expected to be experienced by the city.
Okay. Last question, is that okay? So if we say yes to this entire development, and we're only here for the starting point today, but the rest of the city will have to spend about another 1.8 million to essentially subsidize this development. So help sell me on that, why should the rest of the city do that? Like, what is the benefit to the rest of the residents, the municipalities for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Usually municipalities and the city is no different. Think about growth and development as a balance between residential development, where you're developing places for people to live and recreate and also to shop, etc. And then non-residential development, which is where the employment sectors of the city would be located. And typically, this is common, where non-residential development subsidizes, cross-subsidizes residential development for various reasons. The tax rate is different for non-residential development, so inherently it's paying higher tax rates than the residential development. So even if costs were the same, inevitably there would be some cross-subsidization because non-residential development would be paying more revenues in to support the tax requisition. But the other side of it, of course, is that residential development that people generally demand and would be likely to expect higher levels of service. The costs of services providing to residential development are greater than for non-residential development. So on the cost side, it's higher. So for both of those reasons, it's typical that you would have this cross-subsidization effect. So why would you ever develop residential development then if it's always going to cost you money? And I think the answer is you're trying to build a complete community. You want to have a community where people have the opportunity to live and recreate in the community as well as also work in the community. And this is where the that balanced effect comes into place. So when you're thinking about what the cost of approving a residential development is, and it's good to know what that cost is so you can factor that into your decision-making process, then how much non-residential development do we need on the other side so that we can continue to have balanced growth and not to get into a tax situation where it's going to be unfavorable for both residential and non-residential development. So that's the consideration. I think it's it's a choice that obviously city needs to make about how much residential development, what kind of residential development, keeping in mind, where's the non-residential development going to come from, and is that going to balance off this growth that you're possibly going to experience if you approve this plan and other residential development?
I appreciate that explanation. Was there any thought, when you speak about balance, the city overall is about 60-40 non-res to res. This development, I think, is 93-7. Somebody will shake their head if it's not correct. Was there any thought about making that more balanced, comparable to the rest of the municipality? I'll stop after that. Thank you.
No, I'm happy to answer any and all questions. Through the mayor to the councillor, it's not unusual for not just financial reasons, but community planning reasons to have centers of commercial and business activity and non-commercial services located in central places so that the entire community can access those services from wherever they might live. You noted, I think, earlier there was questions around the development, non-residential development in this proposed plan, which will provide a fair amount of services to the local neighborhood. There's about 600 to 700 expected jobs that would be located within this community. So that's a fair number of services. They would be providing a range of things. So when you think about developing a particular area from a planning point of view, and I'm not a planner, but you want to think about where's the best place to locate the different types of land uses within the city. And sometimes you're going to have concentrations of residential development in some neighborhoods, non-residential, commercial and business services in other areas, and then industrial services in other areas. And there's sound planning principles which would guide you as to where you may best locate those different land use types. So it's typical that primarily residential areas like this would not have a full complement of balanced growth from a residential and non-residential perspective. But in larger cities, you would find some neighborhoods where that would exist, where you've got more mixed use development, more concentrated residential development in conjunction with business development, and then you might be able to achieve more balance just within a neighborhood. But all communities, large or small, except for some perhaps unique examples, have the situation where you've got concentrations of residential development in some places and then non-residential business commercial services in other places. So in consideration of this, I think it's always a consideration to think how much non-residential development should be located within a particular plan area to serve the needs of that plan in consideration of the larger picture for the city, keeping in mind, what balance do you want to try to achieve over the longer term. Thank you. You're welcome.
Go ahead, Councillor Harris.
Mr. Howery, I understand that analytic and been working with it for over 40 years, so I understand that. But those information can be confusing, when you talk about tax increase. Bottom line is, would you say it's fair to say that residential growth costs the municipality Bottom line.
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Harris. It's very unusual to find the opposite. It's not impossible, but in almost all circumstances, residential development is a net cost to the municipality, which is typically subsidized by non-residential development.
Right. So if we look at a comparable, say, the city of St. Albert, which has virtually no industrial, correct me if I'm wrong, they ultimately, their cost for development residentially is substantially higher than it would be here then, because we offset it with our commercial and our heavy industrial. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, through the mayor to councillor. Typically, yes, in municipalities that have a less favorable non-residential share of the assessment base, and assuming similar or sometimes even higher levels of services to residential development like the city of St. Albert, then the residential tax base ends up having to carry a larger share of all of those costs, and tax rates are typically higher.
So it's fair to say that we cannot limit development in our community, and we have to accept this because that's just what it amounts to development in our legislative framework. Is that a fair statement?
Through the mayor to councillor, I'm not sure you're required to approve any kinds of development. It's up to council to make that determination. But that's a bigger, broader question than just the money question. There's obviously community development, community services, and I guess the general picture of what you want the city to look like to take into consideration in making that decision.
Yeah, I don't want to limit it. I think what you've done and what the developers proposed is information to help us make our decisions. So, and you came at it from that standpoint. So thank you. I think we can have that discussion in debate.
Go ahead, Councillor Nguyen.
We'll give you an opportunity to sing praises as a developer here, but further to this conversation, and I appreciate all the information we've been given thus far, what measures do you take as a developer to ensure the tax impact for existing citizens of Fort Saskatchewan is minimized? Is that clear, or just deciding who's taking it?
Sure, through the mayor. I think I don't think that we look at this as a cost minimization exercise from the financial impact analysis point of view. We gather the information about what the development is proposed to look like, and we do the analysis based on that and everything else that we're expecting to happen, in this case the city of Fort Saskatchewan. Sometimes there are issues that arise where there's an opportunity to provide maybe a different neighborhood design that would reduce costs or provide more effective services for the same cost. Those things would and could be taken into account, but this analysis is not a cost minimization or efficiency optimization exercise. It has been an exercise of taking the proposed plan area and evaluating what the financial consequences of that would be. I'm not party to all of the discussions that Lilith and the rest of the team have had with the city administration around those kinds of issues. But from our point of view, we're basically looking at the plan as it's being proposed, and there have been revisions to it to see what the financial consequences of that plan would be.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
And I would just like to add through the mayor to Councillor Nguyen, the area structure plan amendments that we're presenting to you today actually resulted in an increase in commercial lands. So just from the planning perspective, we see the increase of that non-residential tax base in this area. It's not a huge increase, but it is higher than what was originally approved by council.
So essentially, the cost of all the linear infrastructure that goes in. We reserve fund not to replace it in due course. You can at this at this stage of NSP, you can decide to elevate, say, multifamily or higher density residential, and you would capture more of a tax base, which would then lower the increases over the long term, right? But based on what you're saying, striking the balance and working according to the vision of the MDP or NDP is how the design of it is governed.
Through the mayor to Councillor Nguyen, that's correct. We are looking at ranges of various densities for the different land uses that we're showing you today on a screen. For example, if we look at the medium high density residential, the range that it could be developed at is between 70 to 99 dwelling units per net residential hectare. And the same logic follows the other land uses. So in the future stages of development, during subdivision or development permit, the developer will work with administration to ensure that the densities outlined in a neighborhood structure plan are being reflected in the built environment. And if these densities need to go up, as per Terrence's earlier comment, amendments will need to be made to the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions for you. Thank you very much for presenting today. Next on the list, we have Landrex, Mike Yoakum, and Nathan Davidson. And I understand, Mike, you're presenting, and Nathan is up for answering questions. Is that true? Yeah, perfect. I think we were wrong. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mike Yoakum. I'm in favor of this development and this bylaw. And to my right here, I've got Nathan Davidson, also in favor. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. As I said, my name is Mike Yoakum from Landrex Development. We're the managing partners of this development. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our proposed area structure plan amendment and neighborhood structure plan for the Marigold neighborhood. For those who may not be familiar with Landrex, we've been developing communities across Alberta for more than 50 years. Our company specializes in creating complete communities through residential land development, commercial development, and multifamily housing. Here in Fort Saskatchewan, we've been proud to develop land for more than 25 years. During that time, we've brought forward approximately 1,500 residential lots, with much of our work occurring west of Veterans Way in the West Park area. While we've been investing in residential communities in Fort Saskatchewan for many years, Marigold will also provide Landrex with the opportunity to bring forward our first commercial development in the city, creating new services, amenities for both the neighborhood and the community as a whole. We're proud of the communities we've helped build, and we're excited to continue investing in Fort Saskatchewan through our vision for Marigold. The vision for Marigold is to create a complete, connected, and diverse neighborhood that offers housing opportunities for residents at every stage of life. The community will include a variety of housing forms, including detached single-family homes, semi-detached homes, townhomes, and medium to high density multifamily housing with rental and or ownership for those. Along Highway 15, the plan includes commercial development as well as mixed-use areas that combines residential and commercial uses. This will not only serve the future residents of Marigold, but also provide services and amenities for the broader Fort Saskatchewan community. Connectivity has been a major focus throughout the planning of this neighborhood. Vehicle access is provided through connections to the existing West Park community, as well as convenience access to Veterans Way. Equally important is the pedestrian network. Residents will have safe and direct walking connections to the commercial areas within the neighborhood, as well as key community amenities, including Centennial Ball Fields and the West River's Edge Dog Park to the west. These destinations are important amenities for residents living west of Veterans Way and help strengthen the overall livability, connectivity of the community. Stage 1 here on the map demonstrates the variety of housing opportunities that Marigold will offer. This first phase includes a balanced mix of housing types ranging from street-oriented towns, semi-detached homes, and traditional single-family homes. Stage 1 has been designed to provide a balanced mix of housing products that appeal to a diverse range of home buyers and supports the city's objectives of creating housing choice. The anticipated home prices here would range approximately from $300,000 to about $800,000. Creating opportunities for first-time home buyers, young families, move-up buyers, and those looking to downsize while remaining in the community. Stage 1 also includes approximately 4 acres of multifamily development. This provides flexibility for either rental or ownership in this neighborhood and through the community. Overall, Stage 1 and ultimately the entire Marigold neighborhood establishes a strong foundation for a complete, inclusive community from the beginning of the development. Thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon. We appreciate the collaboration and efforts of administration throughout the planning process and the constructive feedback that has helped shape this proposal. We hope Council shares the vision that Landrex and administration have developed for Marigold and will support the area structure plan amendment and neighborhood structure plan as they move forward into the next phase of city approvals. We are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ketcher, go ahead.
Just one question. I was going to stay away from that tree stand, but what happens when it either blows over, those trees become, so damaged that it's not really a tree stand? Does that then be, or they burn up because some kids have got in there or people have got in there, and does that become a park eventually?
To Councillor Ketcher, that's a good question. I don't know if there's any other tree stands in Fort Saskatchewan that has been around, but when talking to our engineers, this tree stand before development was generally at the high point of the neighborhood, and it still is at the high point of the neighborhood. And usually, in my experience, when I've had tree stands left behind, usually if you change the drainage course, that's when you start getting into issues because it chokes out the water and the trees start dying out and falling. Here we haven't changed the drainage pattern, so that is a good sign for these tree stands that they might stick around for some time. Again, when it comes to outside sources like kids or other things, I don't know about that.
Okay, for me, I just wait to see this as things go forward, because I think it's just, I'll be honest, like some of the rest of council, it's a bunch of scraggly trees. So, but that's okay. We'll wait and see how it plays out. Okay. And then my other question is just like, why the right in and right out? I just, and I know that's been answered, but
yeah. So through to Councillor Ketcher, we at our original ASP we had 2 accesses. Our original proposal for the amendment was to have 1 access, but that access being closer to the north in our neighborhood, and so there was some policy around separation, and so we ended up going back to the 2 accesses because we moved the one further to the south, and so and I think the TAA would show that we need 2 anyways, but just on our perspective, one further to the south of our development without anyone north of that wouldn't be great for access in and out, and so we were looking for another access closer to the north side of the neighborhood.
okay, thank you.
Councillor Blizzard.
I'm going to keep harping on this, the right in, right out. One of the nice features in our city when I moved here was that highway. The subdivisions are slow to move, and I'm not talking speeding, but just being able to go on there at a little bit better speed to get from one area to the other. And as more and more lights come in, that slows us down. Right in, right out, I find especially hazardous because people sometimes stay on the highway, even though there's a lane, and then slow down, or they slow down well in advance of the right in or right out. It's just, I don't find they're an ideal situation. Like,
A question on it?
yep, how necessary is this? Like, I just don't see why we couldn't do this and direct them from the back way. And I see one part of it's commercial even. I wouldn't want, the right in, right out just so that commercial has access. There's none of the other commercial areas have this. They have to go off the highway. When I go to whatever, the McDonald's that's in the area, I'm not coming right off the highway. We have very few of those, and they're just unsafe, I find. So is this absolutely necessary, or can't we just direct them to one of the other streets that are back there?
To answer your question, and I haven't reviewed in detail the TIA and the numbers of it, but for us as developers, we always want to be efficient with the infrastructure we put in, and we understand that if we do have redundant infrastructure, that always goes back to the city for maintenance as well, and taxes, and so we're very critical on documents that come forward to us from third parties. And so when we were looking at accesses on here, we were trying to create that, like I said, that one access. And so 2 accesses were required through that TIA. And so for us, we supported that right in, right out, and even for us, for a lot of the demand when it comes to the multifamily, because we like to put multifamily on corridors that could have transit or easy access in and out, and it does support the access for that multifamily that sits there on our first stage, along with the commercial. We get demand from our commercial tenants that they prefer all directional rather than a right in, right out, and so that was our challenge too. Is when we had that second access there next to the commercial, we were getting asked to have that lights, and like you said, we didn't. And I'm sure the city doesn't want 2 sets of lights back to back either. So it was that compromise between what can we provide, but not overkill with a bunch of lights on Veterans Way.
Even when I looked at the second set of lights, they're fairly close together. I know there's a minimum distance, but they must just meet it because they're closer than the next 2 set of lights. Yeah, I'll ask when we have our city staff up again.
Thank you. Councillor Randawa.
Thanks for your guys' presentation and continued interest in doing business in our city. Appreciate the history you guys have here. Kind of a question piggybacking on the tree stand part. So if about a third of our park space is for the tree stand, what do you guys have planned for the other park spaces?
To Councillor Randall, interesting you say that, because we're now starting to get into our detailed design of the first development. And so we have committed to the city, and this is very prelim, that usually with that park space we would provide trees. Obviously there's now already trees there. So in lieu, we were going to take those funds and put it into the park that's within stage 1, the one in the middle there that you see. We haven't got further in those conversations with the city yet, but that's something that we're willing to invest more amenities into that. I don't know what that is yet or what's missing right now in the city, if it's a playground or a basketball court, but it's something that we're in conversations right now with the city.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation this afternoon. For being here to answer questions. Curious on these 2 approaches onto Highway 21. We get asked this all the time with new developments that happen with the Pineview commercial development is when, I guess if it doesn't rain for another month and everything works perfectly, the city says yes to everything that you designed. Do you know roughly when both of them would be planned to go in?
To Councillor Nguyen, the first right in, right out would be developed in this first stage. So if it is approved today. The city is currently working on that design, and we're planning to do construction this year. So sometime in the fall or spring, depending on, like you said, the weather, we would have that right in, right out access in.
Okay, so that four-way intersection could be quite a few years away.
Yeah, so that one there, it depends on demand over the next couple of years. We are planning to either go south or planning to go west, depending on if we've got more commercial demand or more residential demand.
I see.
We are starting to get a lot of commercial demand lately, and so we might continue more south. And so that might be 2 years, it might be 4 or 5. We don't know yet.
Yeah, okay, depending on the uptake and the product, yeah, marketability, everything. Okay, thank you for that answer. I'll ask you basically the same question, which was generated from the financial impact assessment, maybe give you the opportunity to answer. Are there any efficiencies that you find when building out or planning and budgeting for all these new neighborhoods where we can say to our residents, hey, this is a really good idea, Landrex is in here, and it's not going to cause you guys, any tax impact. Obviously, that's not the case, but a minimal tax impact possible. Like how do you think of a new development of this scale when you're considering the rest of our population within Fort Saskatchewan? Maybe there's a water pipe that you've found that it lasts 200 years or something, these type of things. I don't know. Yeah, maybe help us answer to our residents.
Yeah, to your question, Councillor Nguyen, Landrex develops in quite a lot of municipalities within the region, probably 6 or 7. And we find that Fort Saskatchewan is the best when it comes to striking the balance between what is needed, required, what's the wants, and how that affects the maintenance and the taxing. So, for example, sidewalk on one side versus both sides, right? Is it needed on both sides? Is it overkill? Some areas you need it, some you don't, right? In Fort Saskatchewan, we've struck that balance, and so I think Fort Saskatchewan is doing a great job when it comes to those types of standards. Can you reduce from there? That's a challenge, and it's a ricochet effect. Like you said, snow removal, those kinds of things. You start narrowing the roads and doing all those types of things. Anything under the ground, we obviously know now we've got heavy storms. We've got all of these things. We need the appropriate amount of sewers underground. The materials has to be good quality. So I don't think there would be anything I would do less in Fort Saskatchewan or more efficient than you have done already.
Okay, appreciate that answer. Thanks.
Yep.
Councillor Ketcher, go ahead.
I'll just ask the loaded question. You're not special, correct? You're the same as every other development that occurs when it comes to coming on. There's increases to everybody.
Just to clarify that question.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
But other development. So even like the ones we've had on the other side of the highway, they would still have a tax impact on us as well. That's what I'm saying. West Park would have had a tax impact. The other one beside us, West Muse, they all would have had tax impacts, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I would say, back to Daryl's comment, is if you've got some areas, and one would be Roseburn, that was approved, they have less commercial than what we do. So I would assume that if I was to read that document, that would be a higher tax increase than this one. And so when you look at the MDP and you look to the north and you see all that industrial land, that's where the balance is going to be from the residential. And so we're just following the MDP, which is residential in this area, with some commercial, obviously, to support along the highway.
Yeah, but the short answer is you're not any more special than any other development.
No.
Other than you think you are.
No.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, we're special, but yeah.
Yes.
All right, Councillor Wesley.
Thank you. I'm sure, fellas, that your mom thinks you're special. I just wanted a little bit of clarification on the mix of housing. I saw on one of your slides that it was 32% multi-housing, 42% semi-detached, and 26% single detached. Is that in number of units or in percentage of the development dedicated to those housing types?
Yeah, so to answer your question, that would be the percentage of stage one. So stage one has roughly about 167 lots. So that percentage off of 167. And that would just be our first stage. But generally, when I look at this first stage, it's something that we would continue to strike that balance. And depending on where we go in the stages, we like to have each stage to have this balance. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, and some stages get more townhouses. The other stages get bigger single family, but this is kind of a representation of what we would see in the neighborhood.
Okay, but number of units, am I correct in the way I'm thinking that through?
Yeah, so you would take for street orientated, you take 32% of 167, and that would be how many units roughly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Yep.
Perfect. I think that is all the questions for you. Thank you very much. And I'm not seeing anybody in this room who either hasn't spoken or doesn't work here. So I think that there's nobody else left to speak on this item. So I'll call administration back up for some final questions before we close the public hearing. Thank you. I'll open up. Is there any further questions of administration at this point? Go ahead, Councillor Blizzard.
Sure, I'm going to ask you the same question as I did before. So how necessary is this right in, right out? Why can't we stream them to the road and have them go out at Wilshire? Or in the future, the other direction also?
Through Mayor Macon to Councillor Blizzard. So as you've heard, the transportation impact assessment said that one access in this neighborhood for the amount of development is not going to be sufficient. More than one is required. And so that is the advisement from our engineering department. Unfortunately, nobody's here to answer the questions today, but that technical review did take place to assess whether or not one access would work, and it did not.
Do they also look at the safety side of it for the driving?
Absolutely.
On the highway?
Yeah.
Councillor Wesley?
All right, thank you. In Landrix's presentation, they had noted that 32% of the units were multi-housing, 42% semi, and 26% single detached. Would that be pretty similar or in line with adjacent neighborhoods, let's say like West Park?
Through Mayor Macon, Councillor Wesley, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
Thank you very much. Oh, right at the last second. Councillor
Beat the buzzer.
Nguyen, go ahead.
Great, thanks. I'm just curious on this four-way intersection. Do you know the average distance between the all directions intersection and how far this one is? We get asked these questions constantly when there's a proposed intersection. I'm just curious if this one is kind of in the ballpark of average, further away. It's kind of hard to tell the exact distance from these maps.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Nguyen, so I do have some information here for you. The minimum spacing required is 800 meters, and this meets that minimum requirement at being at 835 meters between the intersections.
Okay, roughly kilometer. I'm sure we have others that are around that distance. Apart Fire Hall to the Highway 15 has got to be probably less than that, actually. But
through the Mayor to Councillor Nguyen, I don't know about the other ones, but they would have to at least meet that minimum requirement.
They would. Oh, okay, good to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions, I'll close the public hearing at 3:22 and move into business arising. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So the recommended motion is that council give second and third reading to bylaw C13-26 and C17-26. as described in the council report.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Ketcher.
Okay, I'll give the motion that council gives second reading to bylaw C1326 to amend the Point of Pins area structure plan, bylaw C18 by the items that are listed on the report.
Thank you. I'll accept the motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll speak to it. Even though there's maybe a couple little components in there I have issues with it, it's still not enough for me to vote against this, but I think it's a greater conversation that we need to have with our transportation people as to how many accesses in the future we're going to allow onto the highway. But I think for now this is satisfactory. We need to get this built. And with regards to the comments about tax increases and that, all residential development has tax increases associated with them. I had one conversation with a county mayor and she says, oh, you're so lucky you get all this residential. And I said, no, residential actually costs us. But with that, we have the ability to have the heavy industry, light and medium industry, and they want to have their employees living closer. So that is a benefit that we do have. So I can live with that portion of it. And I know when I moved into West Park, somebody must have helped pay for that too. So other than those couple little things that we'll have a conversation in the future, I'm good with this and I'll support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harris, go ahead.
I'll support continuing with this. I voted against first reading for this because I was fundamentally opposed to the way planning came up with this need to maintain the tree stand. The tree stand is of no value, in my personal opinion. There's others that would suggest that shouldn't be the case, but I don't see it as having value relative to what it could have been. And what it could have been is coterminous commercial development up where there is commercial development now, not necessarily further down, but that's splitting hairs. I think this discussion up to this point in time through the public hearing has been very beneficial for council, because I think it has been a long known axiom that urban development costs money and you don't get it for free unless you're balanced. And I think that analysis by applications ultimately confirmed that. And I think it's it's an important lesson for any council and any elected official to understand. I don't think we can slow growth down all that easily. I think there have been municipalities that tried to put a cap on development. Didn't work, won't work. It comes down to ultimately, how do you want to see the community grow? And I think this ultimately was going to happen sooner or later. And now it's here. And so I can support it going forward. There's some things we can argue about the right in, right out. At this point in time, I can understand that if the development were to have started in the west, closer to the river, then that right in, right out would not be necessary for a long, long time to come. But the fact remains, where it's going to be developing, that's the developer's prerogative and choice. And ultimately, I think at this point in time, the planning probably makes enough sense to be able to support it going forward. So I'll vote for it in that context.
Thank you very much. I'm next in the speaking order. I'm going to support the motion. I think that when you approve and welcome a $13 billion industrial project into our community, we need to build a community that goes along with that growth and supports that. So I like the community as it has been laid out to us. There's a wide range of affordability. I do understand the concern with the right in and right out, and maybe it might not seem necessary with phase one, but certainly when the whole area is built out and there's 3,900 people in that area, you're definitely going to need it to help ensure that that traffic is spread out more. So I can accept that based on the totality of the development when it is completely built out. And I look forward to seeing this community continue to grow. Councillor Randawa, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks to my colleagues for a great discussion today. I'm on the other side of the equation on this one. I really want to take a step back and kind of evaluate the type of growth we're undertaking. This proposal adds about 3,900 residents eventually, and also requires about a 3% tax increase on everyone else to make it possible. I have concerns about asking the rest of the city to subsidize this development. I have concerns about, the shift from larger parks to multiple smaller parks, and the usability and servicing costs related to that as we go forward. I have concerns as well, as some have mentioned, about the number of, highway ins and outs and what's the overall strategy with that as we take a step back. So for me, I just think it's better now to pause and make informed decisions and have the right conversations as a council on the costs of development and what that development needs to look like when we talk about highway access or growth pacing or park designs or tax impacts. And if we're going to be going into this fall and having those discussions around the MDP, I think that's a great time to have those conversations and then proceed with large developments such as this. So I respect my colleagues and the thoughts they have. I'm just on the other side of the aisle on this.
Go ahead, Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I really appreciate the package and the way that it was put together. This is a substantial amount of information, and all the information that council needs to make a decision, everything that planning and development has seen. It's not an easy process to get to this point for an applicant. This neighborhood will, the whole neighborhood structure plan will be served by a new fire hall. One way or the other, you do have to plan new neighborhoods, and I think the developer has succeeded in applying many of the elements of our land use bylaw, and that's been seen by our planning and development team, collaborated together to come up with this design. So it's a very interesting overlay that we see in some of these maps, well served by a massive stormwater management pond, which is very timely considering all the rains we've got lately. I'm sure that'll come into use one day, and so I just, thanks for showing us the future of this area.
Not seeing anyone else. Councillor Ketcher, do you wish to close? You're good. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried. Councillor Ketcher, would you like to do 2?
Yeah, I can do the third reading.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, I apologize.
Back to
There
me.
you go.
Thank you. That council give third reading to bylaw C13-26 to amend Pointed Pins area structure plan, bylaw C18-24 as presented.
Thank you. I'll accept the motion. Do you wish to speak to it? The answer is no. Is anyone else? Nothing. I'll close the motion then. Please cast your vote. And that is carried 5-2. Thank you. Do you want to carry on or want? All right. Councillor Harris, go ahead.
I would move that council give second reading to bylaw C1726 to amend land use bylaw C2320 in accordance with the report as recommended A to E.
Do you wish to speak to it?
I think there are things we don't like about any development. There's things we really like about development. Bottom line is it's a mix of the pro and the con, and I think this is enough of a reasonable development proposal going forward that ultimately I think we should approve it and move forward. We can do analytics on growth and development going forward, but I think the developers put forward a reasonable development, and I think we're obligated to approve it.
Thank you very much. Not seeing anybody. Do you wish to close?
Nope, nothing more.
I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried 5-2. Do you wish to continue with third?
I would move that
Oh, sorry. Just grab your mic again.
I would move that council give third reading to bylaw C1726 to amend land use bylaw C2320 in accordance with A, B, C, D, and E.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak to it?
Nothing.
Not seeing anyone else wishing to weigh in. Anything on close?
Nope.
No, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried 5-2. All right. We've been going at it for an hour and a half, so it's a good thing we're moving in camera so we can take a 10-minute break in between, but I will take a motion to move in camera. Councillor Nguyen,
I'll move that council enter in camera for matters under ATIA.
Thank you. Please cast your vote. If you already put your stuff away, use your card. We do have guests in camera, so we'll just take a quick 10-minute break and then 3:43, and that is carried.